The day of the wedding dawned quietly, not with grand fanfare, but with a gentle stillness, as if the world itself had paused to honor what was about to unfold. Morning sunlight filtered through the soft veil of clouds, touching the city with a warmth that felt almost symbolic. June stood before the mirror in his small apartment, adjusting his tie with hands that trembled not from doubt, but from the enormity of what this day meant. Every reflection of his own face reminded him of the boy he once was, the dreamer who had loved a girl on cherry blossom hills, who had lost her to silence, and who had found her again against all odds. Now, standing here, he realized he was no longer just that boy. He was a man about to begin a life built on all the love, struggle, and patience that had carried them to this point. On the other side of the city, Soo-yeon prepared in the quiet of her family's home, surrounded by the familiar scent of jasmine and the rustle of silk fabric. Her mother's hands adjusted the delicate folds of her dress, movements unsteady but tender. For years, their conversations have been filled with arguments, silence, and unspoken disappointments. Yet now, her mother's touch carried only love. "You look like yourself again," her mother whispered, eyes brimming with tears. Soo-yeon's throat tightened as she met her gaze in the mirror, realizing how much those words meant. For so long, she had felt like a shadow in her own home, a daughter molded into expectations. But today, she stood radiant and free. When the ceremony began, it was not extravagant but intimate, set in a small garden where cherry blossoms had just begun to bloom. The air was filled with the scent of fresh rain, the petals trembling with the slightest breeze, and the light shimmered as though blessing every moment. Guests gathered in quiet reverence, their whispers soft, their faces filled with curiosity and emotion. June's parents sat side by side, hands clasped, pride evident in their eyes, while Soo-yeon's father stood stiffly at first, as though still adjusting to the idea of letting go. Yet when his daughter walked down the path lined with petals, his eyes softened, and in the subtle nod he gave her, there was an entire world of apology and acceptance. June could hardly breathe as he watched Soo-yeon approach, her dress simple yet graceful, her steps measured but steady. She carried no jewels, no crown, but she carried something infinitely more precious: the years of longing, the courage to return, the willingness to love him against every obstacle. His vision blurred with unshed tears, and by the time she reached him, the only thing he could whisper was, "You came." Her smile trembled as she whispered back, "I never really left." The officiant spoke words that were almost lost in the hum of emotions, but to June and Soo-yeon, every syllable was clear. This wasn't just a union of two individuals. It was the closing of old wounds and the opening of a future that neither had dared to dream of years ago. Their vows were not scripted poetry, but honest confessions born of struggle and endurance. June promised not just to love her, but to fight beside her against every silence, every storm, every expectation that tried to tear them apart. Soo-yeon promised not just to stay, but to speak her heart without fear, to never again let the weight of others silence the truth they shared. As they exchanged rings, the world seemed to narrow to the warmth of their hands, the steady rhythm of their breath, and the quiet chorus of cherry blossoms drifting through the air like blessings from the sky. The applause that followed felt distant, like an echo of something larger, but when their parents rose to embrace them, the distance of years collapsed in a single moment. Soo-yeon's father, once unyielding, placed a trembling hand on June's shoulder. "Take care of her," he said softly, and though the words were few, they carried the weight of permission and trust. June's father, too, leaned forward, his voice thick with emotion. "And take care of each other. That is all that matters." The reception was small, but filled with laughter, a laughter that had been absent from their lives for far too long. Friends clinked glasses, stories were shared, and the air shimmered with the warmth of reconciliation. Soo-yeon's mother found herself laughing with June's mother, two women who had once seen only differences but now discovered the shared heart of motherhood. The same fear, the same hope, the same love for their children. June and Soo-yeon slipped away quietly at one point, walking hand in hand through the garden as the night began to settle. Lanterns glowed softly above them, casting golden light across their faces. Soo-yeon leaned against him, her voice low but filled with wonder. I used to think love was fragile like glass, that if the world pressed too hard, it would shatter. She paused, tightening her hold on his arm. But now I see it bends, it scars, it waits. And somehow it survives. June looked at her, his heart swelling with a love too vast for words. It doesn't just survive, he whispered. It becomes stronger, just like us. They stopped beneath a cherry blossom tree, its branches heavy with blooms, the petals drifting down like blessings from the heavens. The world around them was quiet, yet inside them, a symphony played, the harmony of forgiveness, endurance, and the promise of a future built not on perfection, but on love's resilience. June lifted her hand to his lips, not as a gesture of possession, but of reverence, a vow that needed no words. Soo-yeon's eyes glistened, and as she leaned her forehead against his, they both closed their eyes, not in fear of losing each other this time, but in the certainty of having finally found home. That night, as the stars scattered across the sky and the city slept, their parents returned home with lighter hearts, carrying the quiet realization that happiness was not about controlling destiny, but about allowing it to bloom. For June and Soo-yeon, the road ahead would not be free of struggles, but they would walk it together, hand in hand, with the courage to face every storm. Their story, once marked by silence and separation, had become a testament to love's endurance, a story that would linger not just in photographs or whispers of memory, but in every breath they took as husband and wife. And in that fragile, eternal moment beneath the cherry blossoms, love was no longer a question. It was an answer, steady, unwavering, and finally, there's